What's good, my crew? Hope you guys are doing good today. If you follow my videos, our last trackside adventure was based in Gainesville, Georgia, specifically at the Amtrak station, where we were here to catch Amtrak 19 with a duo of new Siemens ALC 42 charters leading Amtrak 19 on his journey on the Crescent train. However, if you know anything about Gainesville, Georgia, you know that there are plenty of opportunities for activity.
Nice.
For one, there's an airport maybe 2 to 3 miles from the station that continually provides air traffic for you to see. And in addition to the Norfolk Southern Mainline that we're next to, the Amtrak 19 is running on, there's also the CSX Gainesville Midland sub, a little off branch that terminates in Gainesville and that Norfolk Southern interchanges with. And while I was waiting for Amtrak, I just so happened to see a little box working the mill over here.
Hey, who is Kyle over there?
Now, perhaps you're wondering if you've never seen anything like this before. What is this? Well, this little box that we're looking at running on the rails here is a Trackmobile.
What?
Now, let me explain why we even have these. So typically, for smaller industries or for smaller moves, you might have a 4 or even 6 axle locomotive that is running whatever industry you have. For a class 1 like Norfolk Southern that we're next to, at this location specifically, you can very commonly see 6 axle SD40-2s working the local industries in the yard that's a little bit down from here. Or you may even see the big, over 4,000 horsepower 6 axle mainline locomotives leading locals around this area in the most fuel efficient aspect of railroading you will ever see in your life. In other industries, like a lot of the grain mills that you find in North Georgia, you may find older retired locomotives like these. A B40-8 that formerly belonged to CSX but now belongs to the Pickens Railway. Or you may even see a switcher like this.
Whoa.
An old Baldwin locomotive whose identity online is very obscure. Or you may even see a mixture of 4 and 6 axle power, such as can be found at the cargo mill in Gainesville, Georgia, which specifically exists to move in loaded grain hoppers that are brought in from Norfolk Southern grain trains and unload them at the cargo mill here in Gainesville, Georgia. However, for the CSX Gainesville Midland subdivision, we see none of these types of locomotives. Instead, we see the Trackmobile here. And the Trackmobile here has some features that give it a little bit of advantage over some of the more conventional locomotives. Despite being small, it still provides enough tractive effort to be able to move cars around the mill here. It is an RCL, or remote control locomotive, which means the operators can use the Trackmobile without actually physically operating any of the controls inside the console. Additionally, with it being smaller, you don't have to pay as much for fuel, it doesn't take up as much space, and it is actually a high railer.
What?
Those tires that you see in the middle of the Trackmobile are not there for no reason. They allow the Trackmobile to be able to go onto the road if needed, and then quickly assume transfer by the rails when they eventually need to take a cut of cars somewhere.
Incredible.
And if you look closely on this Trackmobile in particular, you'll see the marking Titan right on top of the wheels. This marks the type of Trackmobile that we have here. If you go onto the Trackmobile website, you can see that there are 7 different Trackmobile models that can be selected for customers to choose from. 5 of them being ran on diesel fuel, while 2 others are electrically powered. The Titan in particular is the most popular one, according to Trackmobile, but I'm assuming that the others each have their own features that would make a company want to buy them more. Perhaps it could be cost, horsepower, etc. I didn't research deep enough into the different models to be able to definitively tell you why. Regardless, the Trackmobile here works in cooperation with the CSX operations on the Gainesville Midland, with CSX either taking or dropping off hoppers at the mill here, and the Trackmobile taking these cars and doing whatever assignment it has for the day. And although it may be small, like really small compared to the type of loads that it's pulling, it still does have enough strength and tractive effort to pull all these cars at a lower cost compared to having a big locomotive that's constantly expending a lot more fuel to do the same job. And believe it or not, however, the Trackmobile is not the only one of its kind. There is a competitor to the Trackmobile, and this is the Shuttle Wagon.
What is that?
Now, I've incorrectly said this twice on 2 different videos that the Shuttle Wagon was a type of Trackmobile.
What do you mean by that?
In addition to a Trackmobile and a Trackmobile. No. Yeah, that was a lie. My fault.
He's a liar!
The Shuttle Wagon is a completely different product that was marketed by the company Waptec. Similar to the Trackmobile, however, at least up here in North Georgia, I've found these near grain mills, working in cooperation with other 4-axle locomotives to be moving around cars that come in from Norfolk Southern loaded grain trains. And similar to the Trackmobile, the Shuttle Wagon does have a number of different products. The ones that we appear to be seeing at these different mills appear to be of the Commander class, and there are 3 different types that are different based on their length, their weight, and their maximum tractive effort. And similar to the Trackmobile, they offer a number of very similar advantages. The Shuttle Wagon is smaller, it does not consume nearly as much fuel as a standard locomotive, it still provides enough tractive effort to get the smaller jobs that you need to get done, and it is also technically a high railer. As you can see, these large rubber tires that are advertised on the website indicating high rail operation.
Sensational.
I frankly couldn't tell you why a company would want to buy a shuttle wagon versus a Trackmobile or vice versa. I'm assuming it would depend on either performance promises or issues that you'd really only know by actually working on these things or having a lot of data on the performance. If any of you wandering souls happen to have actually operated on these locomotives and can give some insight, feel free to share. Regardless, both the Trackmobile and the shuttle wagon are examples of the more unique and wacky parts of railroading. Railroading that involves the uses of these very little boxes that are comparatively much smaller compared to the loads that they're carrying, yet still are able to develop enough tractive effort to pull smaller loads and move them around wherever they need to go to in smaller industries. And even though they may be little and a lot weaker than what you typically see on the rail line, they still are very vital and they're strong enough to get the job done. They're nothing like the 6-axle locomotives that you typically see on the main line. And speaking of the main line, I had enough of watching these little engines and returned my attention back to the Norfolk Southern Greenville district, where the distant horn of Norfolk Southern 25A would grab my attention as it heads down to inbound towards Inman Yard. Fortunately for me, this just happened to be my day because I was passing by Suwanee after getting some errands done, and coincidentally, just the right time when Norfolk Southern 27A happened to be in the area. So I made a quick little pit stop near the caboose and near some maintenance of way equipment that was sitting next to it to conclude this outing for today. And thus today's journey comes to a close, starting with tiny little engines and ending with the big roaring 6-axle ones. And though the mainline ones may look mighty, the little ones still have an important role in making sure that everything goes where it needs to. I hope that you guys learned something new, and I hope that any of you guys who have any more information can share it down in the comments. Until next time, my friends, God bless. I will see you soon out on the high iron.